Hello everyone and welcome to the Turn Towards Love podcast. I'm so grateful and honoured to have the wonderful Larry Pahl on today. I hope you have a wonderful time like I did, just getting to know Larry and seeing his latest discoveries in Egypt. Larry is an independent researcher. In this podcast he discusses his interest in prophecy and ancient Egypt. He shares how his fascination with the Great Pyramid led him to dedicate his life to studying Egypt and its mysteries. Larry presents his recent discoveries about the Vitruvian Man and its connection to the Great Pyramid, including the alignment of the stars of Orion and the significance of the Holy Circle and Holy Shaft. He also explores the symbolism of the Thunderstruck Tower tarot card and the Crown Chakra in relation to his research. In this conversation, Larry Pahl discusses the symbols and metaphors associated with Orion, focusing on the depictions of Orion as a warrior and as a defeated lion. He also explores the presence of a throne in the throat chakra chamber and its connection to the power and judgment of Orion. Larry highlights the significance of the Holy Shaft and its relationship to the beauty and humility at the center of the universe. He emphasizes the importance of balancing the energy centers and chakras and invites listeners to his up-and-coming Egypt tours. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy. Hello, Larry. I think we are on.
Hey, Rachael.
Hi.
Nice to be here.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for being here today. How are you? Are you okay?
It's going good, yeah.
Good.
Played tennis this morning, so I feel good.
Oh, good. Wow. You must be like motivated and energized.
Yeah.
Good. So I really want to just dive right in and just ask a bit about you first, about what initially brought you to Egypt, really. Like, how long have you been a researcher there for? And
well, it was, as a young man, I was interested in prophecy, the idea of sort of knowing the future. So I read Edgar Cayce, The Sleeping Prophet. I read his stuff. I read all the prophecies of Nostradamus. I studied Bible prophecy, anything that was prophetic. And then somebody told me the Great Pyramid is a prophecy. And I said, really? And so I did find that there is a school of interpreters that do believe that there's a timeline, various timelines in the Great Pyramid, and that therefore it told events from the past, but also predicted events for the future. So once I learned the Great Pyramid was part of prophecy, then I started getting into it. And basically that overtook my study of prophecy, and I just became fascinated with the things I was finding in Egypt. So that was quite a long time ago. That was many decades ago, and it was
really?
right. It was right about the time of the infancy of the internet, and so I have top-level domain names now. I have greatpyramid.org, I have greatpyramid.us, I have greatpyramid.info. Not because I bought them, but because I was the original adopter of those domain names. So I've been interested in things of Egypt and the mysteries of ancient Egypt for decades. But, then my professional life took most of my energies teaching at the high school and the college level. And so when I stopped doing that, I went full time into devoting all my energies to Egypt. And that's really just been in the last 4 or 5 years. So I've had a presence in stuff related to Egypt forever, but only have dedicated my life full time to it, in the past probably 5 or 6 years, I'd say. And I do, sometimes people call me an Egyptologist. I'm not formally an Egyptologist. If you're an Egyptologist, that means you've, majored in Near Eastern languages, or you've studied anthropology. And my advanced degrees are not in the areas that can make me an Egyptologist. Now, I have presented at 2 large Egyptological conferences, and that's because the papers I submitted were peer-reviewed, blind peer-reviewed, so they didn't know I was not a legitimate Egyptologist. So I presented papers at the Egyptological conferences, but I consider myself an independent researcher
Yeah.
because I'm not interested just in the things that in the formal body of science called Egyptology, but also sacred geometry, some esoteric sciences, and ultimately theology. So my calling myself as an independent scholar puts me outside the boundaries of just being an Egyptologist.
So is your main focus at the moment Egypt, or are there other things that you're working on as well?
Well, the name of my institute, I've had a not-profit institute for a long time, which is what I use as the base for my tours and adventures and studies in Egypt, is called the American Institute for Pyramid Research. So it's a not-for-profit corporation in the United States. And so it says Pyramid Research, the American Institute for Pyramid Research. I'm in America, and I'm researching pyramids, but while I have done some study of the Central American pyramids, the focus of my institute and my life has been the pyramids of Egypt. So
Oh, brilliant.
that's
Okay.
been the main field that I worked in.
Oh, lovely. It's interesting about the prophecies and what you've discovered about that in these 5-6 years in Egypt. Can you tell us a bit
Yeah,
more about
and I
that?
believe that there is a prophetic timeline there, but I've gotten into so many other things by moving into the Great Pyramid. I won't say I've lost focus on its power and potential as a prophetic timeline because I found so many other things. But I do believe that there's more to find. And as I turn my sights in that direction, which I have been sort of mildly, I do believe that that there are, time prophecies
Yeah.
in the Great Pyramid. I do believe that. There are time prophecies in the Bible. There, like in Daniel
Yeah.
12, it talks about 1,290 days. It talks about 1,335 days. In some of the prophets, it talks about a time, and half a time. So there's these different time references, but there's a whole lot of debate about how to interpret those. But the point is, the time prophecies are there, and the same thing with people. This group of interpreters that have looked at the Great Pyramid's timeline. There's a lot of different viewpoints on it. So it's hard ever to say I've found it, but I do believe, just the way that I look for directions from the Alpha and Omega, for divine providence to guide my searching, that I do believe I might find something that I have confidence in, and then I'll begin to promote it to others.
And
Because
yeah.
I've seen the things that I've seen. I know I've seen, and whether anybody else goes with me there or not, that's okay. I'm still going to
Yeah.
present what I found because I know that I found things, and I do think I will find some things related to prophecy. And in a sense, what I want to get into today with you, and we do, is like a prophecy. It's just not a time prophecy
Absolutely.
directly.
Yeah. Into what you have learned by what you've discovered and how that's opened up pathways for you in your own journey, your own heart, your own life, what you've discovered about yourself and how that's helped you grow and expand in ways that, before you didn't know.
Just the sense. I mean, I have felt most of my life a strong sense of calling and
Yeah.
guidance. I remember when I went to the first wedding among my high school friends. So the first guy that got married, we went to the wedding, and this was like, it was like after I think I had graduated from college. So we're a little bit older, but now one of my high school buddies is being married. And I remember sitting at the bar with Dave Wheeler, who was voted most likely to succeed in my class. And I was telling him
Yeah.
about some things I was doing, and he said, "Larry, you've always been searching. You've always been searching." And I never realized it's like when somebody else that you respect tells you something, and then you got to kind of look and go, and that's like, wow, he's right. I mean, so that might sound silly, but here's the most likely to succeed guy telling me, "Larry, you've always been searching for something." And he says, "I can tell you're onto something. And so that from that reflection from my classmate, telling me that so from that point forward, he told me that, and then from that point forward, I probably realized, yes, I am a searcher, and so I've always felt a sense of calling in being a searcher. In other words, the Eastern Masters said, "Seek and ye will find," and so
Yeah.
I've been seeking and finding. So some of the things that I've found at Giza are things that Egyptologists don't really study. Like one of the things I've studied, markings on the ground, on the pavement, because the Egyptologists say that the pavement is part of the original construction. In other words, the same people that built the pyramid are the people that put these marks on the pavement. And so they sort of provide a poor man's archaeology, because I'll never be able to get permission to excavate one of the pyramids or something. I'm not Harvard University. I'm not the Smithsonian. And while I know, the people in charge there and stuff, they're just never going to give me that permission. So I have to take what I can get, That's why I have to sneak around like Indiana Jones sometimes. Sometimes I just figure, this is God's monument ultimately. And while Egyptians are given the superintendent responsibility as a nation to protect their monuments, which they should, if sometimes I disagree about what they're doing, I might, be found fighting them because I think that there's a higher source of revelation and I want to get at that. So pursuing that kind of belief that there is something embedded here, that I'm not crazy in looking for meaning in these markings on the plateau. And I feel like I've been rewarded in that I found things. So that gives me confidence that number one, this is sort of indirectly answering your query there, that the source that's guiding me is a divine source. It's a real source. And so because it pays off. And my searching is, insofar as I'm humanly possible, is pure. In other words, if you're just trying to find things to prove what you already believe, that's not really research. As a matter of fact, the first major book I wrote about stuff related to Egypt, called Enoch, the Egyptian New Orion Connection Hypothesis. It's basically finding how the constellation Orion with the stars that are in the sky were placed onto Egyptian soil by the Egyptians. And so when I started out the research, it was like, okay, I'm going to go to places that my GPS said that the Orion star goes and see if there's a pyramid there. So it's kind of like, astroarchaeology, star pyramid. That's how I started out. When I ended up, if you read that book, it ends up nothing like that. I mean, there's a certain connection there, but it ended up into being a completely, the things I was found that I was led to by the Alpha and Omega, to me were prophetic, because some of the things I found where there was supposed to be pyramids, and my friend Larry Hunter, who's got a long history at Giza, used to say, well, there are pyramids 30 meters under where those spots are. That could be. I'm never going to be able to excavate 30 meters. But what I did find there was things that whoever first laid down the stars on Egyptian soil couldn't have known, because it's something that popped up since they designed it, and yet it fits the meaning of the Orion stars. So it's like it was like a prophecy. It was like saying something that would only be fulfilled in the future. Like the Alpha and Omega knew that this spot, which is where they wanted a pyramid to be, something else was going to be there. So in many of the stars, there are pyramids, but where there weren't pyramids, what I found was something quite other than what I had started out my research with, and I let the research take me where it would. And so it's like that book then is like a travelogue. My book Enoch is like a travelogue because it shows what I did. You can follow my journey, journey of learning there. So in other words, as much as I can humanly possible say, my research is pure, and so in that sense, I believe I'm being guided by a pure source. I mean, I'm not trying to hoodwink anybody or force data where there is no data. I'm trying to just say, take me. And sometimes I feel like, I've discovered so many things. I just really have. I mean, look at my YouTube channel, look at the, I can't even remember some of the things. Sometimes I look at my old videos and I go, oh yeah, I forgot about that, So it's like, I just feel like I'm going again in March, next month I'll be going and doing several different kinds of research. I just feel like, how could I discover anything? It's like, but it keeps happening. So I don't.
Keeps happening.
Yeah,
there's always something new to discover when you're there.
Yeah. I go expecting and it's fulfilled,
Yeah, and that's lovely. So you have a presentation to show us today.
Yes. Yep.
And this is what you've discovered recently.
Yes. Yeah, with other people. Yeah.
With other people. Yes. Would you like to bring that up for us?
Okay, so is there...
Yes, I can see that.
Okay, so it's sharing correctly and everything?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, because it is for me, but I just want to make sure it is for you too. Okay,
Yeah,
so
it is.
so the Vitruvian Man is one of the most iconic, drawings in the world. It's somebody told me, along with the Mona Lisa, it's one of the two, the two top. Okay, so Da Vinci drew this. It's obviously the physique of a Greek godlike man, So it's and Vitruvius. It got the name Vitruvius because Vitruvius was the Roman architect who talked about using like human proportions in architecture and stuff, and he talked about how the different parts of the body are related by ratios, like maybe the foot is 1/7 of the height, and the forearm to the whole arm is a certain percentage. So Da Vinci, in the backward masking writing that he has at the top of the Vitruvian Man, talks about that. He talks about Vitruvius. That's why it's called the Vitruvian Man. Okay, so my friends Ellen Green and Robert Grant made some huge discoveries about the Vitruvian Man. They found the slope angle of the Great Pyramid embedded here, and then they realized Da Vinci had given clues in how to lay the Vitruvian Man out over to lay the Great Pyramid over the top of the Vitruvian Man. And so, so before I get in that, just remember that I said that I want to show you a discovery I made that will sort of tie in here a little bit. So.
Yeah.
The Holy Circle and the Holy Shaft. So right there on the Giza Plateau, I discovered a Holy Shaft. That's actually it right there. It's you can see it's a little bit north of the causeway coming off of the Khafre Pyramid, and it's a shaft. So I discovered that is the center. That Holy Shaft is the center of a circle. And the circle touches the four major monuments in the area. It touches the Great Pyramid on the north, Khafre Pyramid on the west, goes right through the middle of the Sphinx on the east, and to the south it goes through the center of the tomb of Kenkawes. So the four monuments in the area are all touched by it, and it just seems like this couldn't be by chance. Okay, so then when I measured it, it's 888 feet, but it's 504 ancient cubits. That's the radius of this circle. Okay. So when you square that circle and take a side of it, I'm just cutting through the math. It comes out to 792.0 ancient cubits. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, if you take the Great Pyramid, just take one side of the Great Pyramid. Okay. That's 7,920 inches. Because there's 18 inches in a royal cubit, and there's 440 royal cubits on the side. So 440 times 18 is 7,920 Egyptian inches. So we got the same grouping of numbers, 7,920 in the Great Pyramid and 7,920 in the holy, one side of the square of the holy circle. Okay. Then if you look at Stonehenge and you take the Sarsen circle, actually the outside, the Sarsen circle, and then square that. So take that radius and make it a square. Then the side of the Sarsen circle squared, okay, is 79.20 feet. So again, you got 7920. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what's interesting is planet Earth is 7,920 miles in diameter. 7920. Now, if you look in Wikipedia today, there's some question because the Earth is an oblate sphere. But if you take the average of the polar diameter and the equatorial diameter, it's pretty close to 7920. And that was what the ancients used when they were encoding the Earth. They used 7920. So that's incredible. So it's people know that Stonehenge, this big monument, is signaling things. They know the Great Pyramid, this big stone monument, is signaling things. But I found a virtual circle, a virtual shaft that indicates the same thing. Okay. And what's interesting, Stonehenge, the 7920 is in feet. In the Great Pyramid, 7920 is in inches. In my holy circle, the 7920 is in cubits, and on Earth, it's in miles. So it's showing they use different measurements to signal this value. So plainly, the ancients knew the diameter of the Earth. Yeah. Now, that wasn't discovered supposedly until the Greeks started doing it in much more recent times. So somehow, that's an incredible piece there. Okay. So now that I've shown that, you'll see where that piece of information will come in here. So my friend Will Wire, who's been to Egypt with me, and we've discovered some things together there, and now he works with Robert Grant on the Gaia series that Robert Grant's doing. But he noticed that these three diamonds in the Vitruvian Man represent the three belt stars of Orion, which of course are associated with the three Giza pyramids. So I'm like,
Yep.
Now let's say this about those marks. Those are not part of the human anatomy. Here in this Vitruvian Man, which is supposed to be the iconic man, the Greek godlike man, we don't have those on our abdomen. The same thing with that line that's going through, his genital area there. That's a horizontal. That's not part of the human physique. Look through his chest there up at the nipples. There's a line there. Those horizontal lines were found to be, once the Great Pyramid was placed over the Vitruvian Man, every one of the horizontal lines that Da Vinci put in the Vitruvian Man is a chamber that's in the Great Pyramid or a chamber that's to be discovered, because the recently discovered chamber up there, Da Vinci had a horizontal line there. Okay, so there's Orion. He's got the three belt stars. So now we got Orion being associated with the Vitruvian Man. All right. So again, this is from Google Earth Pro. I put the red dot where the holy shaft is. And so up at the right, in the right-hand corner, you can see the way the Great Pyramid is associated with the Vitruvian Man based on the lines that Da Vinci put there. So this is not somebody's esoteric dream forcing something to happen. This is plainly what Da Vinci meant to be the overlay based on the clues he gave in the Vitruvian Man. Okay. Well, what I want to show you is that if you go from the center of the Great Pyramid to the center of Menkaure, that's the slope angle of the Great Pyramid. It just happens to be the slope angle of the Great Pyramid. So if you draw the same reflecting line over there and follow the Menkaure causeway, you basically have an elevation view of the Great Pyramid. And one reason I think this is intended, because the surface area is exactly 5 times that of the Great Pyramid. It's not like 5.6 or 9.7. It's exactly 5 times. So it seems like this was intended by the designers of the Giza Plateau to place the Great Pyramid over the Giza Plateau. Okay. Mm-hmm. So my idea, using Will's discovery, is, well, first of all, let's place the Vitruvian Man over not the Great Pyramid now, like Da Vinci did. Let's lay the Vitruvian Man over this 5 times Great Pyramid likeness that's on the Giza soil. And I think Da Vinci knew about this. So I think Da Vinci intended this. Okay. So what I'm doing here, I'm just projecting what I think Da Vinci knew. So the question then is, well, how do you relate the soil of Giza with these internal passages that are inside the Great Pyramid? Okay. So that's the way that the overlay, with the inset that's in the right, now we've just placed it right over, the Vitruvian Man. So you can see the Grand Gallery and the way it goes over the Vitruvian Man. But now we're placing it over, the Giza soil and the 5 times Great Pyramid that's there. Okay. So that's where the Grand Gallery. Now that one you don't see in diagrams yet, but Jean-Pierre Houdin, the great architect who's probably got the best theory on how the Great Pyramid was actually built, he's written a couple articles on academia that show that the muon scans really show this chamber is not like a cloudy thing like you see on some pictures. It's really a chamber just like the Grand Gallery. It's the second Grand Gallery. It's directly above. We know the muon scans show that this gallery is directly above, the Grand Gallery. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that the holy shaft, which is in red there, is right near the center point, the important point in that new Grand Gallery. Okay, just interesting. And so the red rectangle I just put in there, that's the new chamber. Where the new chamber is that was discovered and revealed last March. With a press conference in Egypt, and there's this passageway that goes right up to where the holy shaft is on the Giza Plateau. Wow. But it's to the second Grand Gallery there. So that's just interesting to me. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and it's also interesting laying out the Vitruvian Man this way. There's the Sphinx, and the Sphinx is exactly, I put the likeness there is much bigger than the actual Sphinx, but it's right over the bicep. It's right over the bicep of the Vitruvian Man. So here's the strength. The Sphinx is the strength. It's the designer showing strength there. And there's other connections I could show, but let's go to the 3 marks that Will suggested were, the belt stars of Orion. Okay. So what I did was, I took a star chart of Orion. That's just the same star chart you'd get if you did a search on Google. You'd get that picture of the star chart. So what I did was I just took each one of the major stars that make up that constellation, and I put a big black dot. So obviously the dots are bigger than the stars, but I wanted to make it plain, to at least rough this out to test Da Vinci here. So, I made those groups so I could test out this idea. We're going to place those belt stars over those three, things that aren't part of the human body, but Da Vinci put them there for some reason. That's what we're going to test out here. Okay. So, that's the way the Great Pyramid goes over the Vitruvian Man. So here's that group of dots. That is Orion. That is the way they are oriented in the sky. So let's place them over. Let's put them right over those three. Okay, there they are. So I'm suggesting that this laying out of the stars of the constellation Orion over the Vitruvian Man is the way it's meant to go. And this would be true whether you're just talking about the Vitruvian Man over the actual Great Pyramid, or whether you're talking about the Vitruvian Man over the soil in Giza. Both could apply. Now, so notice that what's interesting is that almost all of these dots appear within the Great Pyramid. The dots that don't, you can see 4 dots that basically don't, because the one at the bottom near his testicles there, that's really close to the pit. So that's really, and again, since that's underground, that's really part of the Great Pyramid. But you can see, do you see the 4 black, circles that are outside the pyramid?
Yeah, I see them.
Yeah, okay. Those are not part of Orion. They're his shield and his club. So the point is, Orion is totally within the Great Pyramid based on these stars. So that's the first thing I want to point out. Okay. Secondly, so there's the alignment where I showed that I'm just following the ideas that Da Vinci put in my head and that Will Wire suggested. So this is a real layout. Everything is here. Da Vinci did encode the Great Pyramid. If you don't believe that, tune out. We're on a separate relay because he did. Da Vinci did say put the Great Pyramid here. And then if those are the belt stars of Orion, then he said lay out these stars this way. So all I'm doing again as a researcher is I'm following the evidence. Okay. So now, so there is, okay, just see how what's outside of the Great Pyramid is something that Orion's holding, but not Orion himself. You follow that?
Yeah.
In other words, so you got the club up there and the shield, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay. So there's Orion, the stars depicted in the Vitruvian Man. Okay. Now, again, we're following what Da Vinci gave us here. So that's where the club would be. Notice it's up at the top of the pyramid, and so that's just the way the stars are. Now, what is that? Well, what I did was when I put those dots in there, 2 of the dots I placed on stars are actually in the constellation Taurus, and that's exactly where they'd be. And notice they too are both outside the Great Pyramid. And notice that the club that Orion is wielding is aiming right at those. I mean, that's what it's clubbing at. Okay. So here's Taurus. So that's where the tip is. As a matter of fact, because that star, that top red dot, is the tip of the constellation Taurus. And the lower red dot right there is Aldebaran, which is the head star that's in Taurus. It's actually right near the eye. Okay, so the 2 major stars of Taurus are pictured outside the pyramid, charging at the pyramid like enemies of the pyramid, and Orion is defending it. As a matter of fact, the charging Taurus has got the seven Pleiades, captive. These 7 virgins are on his back, and he's carrying them. So Orion seems to be fighting, for the freeing of the Pleiades. And so Joseph Seiss, in his book about the stars here, and a couple others have said that Taurus can represent many things, but one thing it represents is a raging bull. This is a mad bull. Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, it can represent the woke powers of Earth, taking dictates that are against human rights, against the freedoms of men, and trying to make the one world government kind of thing. That's in a sense what I really think is pictured by this charging bull. And Orion, who is a major constellation in almost all ancient cultures. Orion is not just laid down on Egyptian soil. It's done in Mexico, it's done in China, it's done in Arizona, the Hopi Indians. So there's many cultures that have revered Orion. And what is Orion? It's a picture of a man fighting an enemy power. He's got a raised club. So it's a symbol of judgment in a sense. It's a symbol of a fight and a symbol of judgment. And so that's what Da Vinci is bringing us to. So in a sense, there's nothing more revelatory about this other than what's been in the sky forever. If Da Vinci would have never drawn the Vitruvian Man, if the Great Pyramid would have never been built, this picture has been in the heavens for thousands of years. So Da Vinci and the Great Pyramid are being put together here to bring notice to this age-old story. And the implication is, since this is just being found now, I don't know anybody else that suggested that those three marks on the Vitruvian man's waist, were the three belt stars of Orion. But it seems to me that they are. It seems to me that this picture is being proven here. So let's look at this a little bit more. Okay, this is fascinating to me. This is a card that's been in the human race for thousands of years. This is a picture, I should say. This is a picture that has been in the human race for thousands of years. It's the 16th card of the major arcana of the Tarot deck, sometimes called the Thunderstruck Tower. Now you can see it's plainly the Great Pyramid. You can see, and this is from the Egyptian deck. And what's happening? There's a club, there's a lightning bolt, there's something hitting the top, just like we see with Orion's club. And just like there are two red dots, which are like a representation of the enemy, there are two men falling. And notice they're Egyptian. It's not showing so often Egyptians in their hieroglyphics show their enemies in diminutive ways. They're in chains, they're small, they're being stepped on. These are not pictures of their enemies. This is pictures of Egyptians. So the implication is that the people that are doing the persecuting might be, enemies from within that are acting without. I mean, that would be one conclusion if you liken this tarot card picture with what we're talking about. But whether you do or don't, I'm just saying that to me just seems to be another thing heightening the story that this story has been in the human race for a long time. And it looks like that this might be an indication that this is finally coming to pass, that what's pictured here. Okay. So that's where the second grand gallery is. And again, that black dot that's there, that's the holy shaft. That's where the holy shaft is. So it's just so incredible because look, it's on the shoulder of Orion.
No.
And it's, it's near the heart of the throat chakra chamber. As a matter of fact, Alan Green likened the lines, the horizontal lines that Da Vinci put here to the 7 chakras. And so that's Robert Grant calls this the throat chakra chamber, because that's near where, the throat chakra would go on the Vitruvian Man. So that's interesting. And that star is actually, okay, because remember, these are actual stars in the constellation Orion. That star is Betelgeuse. It's the shoulder star. So the star, that black dot that's circled in green, which is on the shoulder of the Vitruvian Man, is the shoulder Betelgeuse of Orion. Now that's a connection. And what's interesting to me is that is connected to the club. So the club being swung, it's connected ultimately to that shoulder joint. In other words, when Orion's doing his club swinging, it's connecting to that. And so I just think, one of the prophecies about Christ in Isaiah, it says that the government shall be upon his shoulder. Now, nobody thinks that the government of Israel or the government of the world or the government of heaven actually rested on the shoulder of Christ. It's an expression that means that the shoulder is a place where you bear burdens. I used to work construction. I would lift boards all the time on my shoulder. You carry big boards, you put them on your shoulder. I was a lumberjack. I carried logs across sites I was working on my shoulder. So it bears burdens. And so
Yeah.
what I see here, because I'll show in a minute that Robert Grant had a download and a vision about that chamber, the throat chakra chamber, and saw a granite throne there.
Yeah.
So if there's a throne there, throne is a place where a king makes judgments. If you want to go see the king, you want, justice against your enemy, you go to the throne and the king makes a judgment from the throne. So what this is saying to me is that the power that's controlling this ultimate cartoon of Orion fighting Taurus, when that club is going to be wielded and do its destruction, it's a symbol of judgment coming. It's going to be decided by the person, the power, the God that's bearing the burden. In other words, if you go to war for your country and you slice another man's head off, I've studied the psychological effects of warfare on human beings.
Yeah.
I know a man that killed 4 Germans in World War II, and he feels guilty about it to this day because he knew he was killing men that had children, that were fathers. And so, he's got to bear that burden. He was doing it for his country. He was assigned as a soldier to do that. So the power there is a power behind judgment that comes, I'm sure they feel the same kind of thing. If I'm going to cause a judgment, a tidal wave that's going to lead to thousands of people dying, an earthquake that'll lead to thousands of people dying, things we call judgments, there's a connection. And everything I just said is based on, to me, interpreting what's in front of me.
Absolutely.
So making stuff up, that's fine. I don't think I am. And what's interesting, the star, the black dot directly across from Betelgeuse, that's Misa. That's the star Misa, which is the head star of Orion. That's his head. And notice it's on the other shoulder, of the Vitruvian Man. So again, we're talking symbology here, because it's really that you bear in your mind. That friend of mine that killed 4 Germans, he bears that in his shoulder. That's metaphorical, but it's really his mind that's bothered.
Can I just tell you one thing?
Please.
I just, sorry to interrupt, but I pulled out a oracle card for what would be relevant to today's podcast with you, Larry.
Yeah.
If you can see that, it's number 7. It's the crown chakra.
Because I'm sharing my screen, somehow I've lost the picture of you.
Well, you'll see it on the replay maybe, but it's the crown chakra.
Okay.
And so it says the frequency of the crown chakra, the violet flower of life, supports our spiritual connection to the universe and our ability to transmute negative energy into light. And it just goes with exactly what you were saying. It's like the burden, the negative energy, and up there in the crown chakra. And that is like the perfect card. So I just thought I'd say that. Yeah.
That's it. And actually, actually the crown chakra, based on the way that Alan Green has deciphered the chakras in the Vitruvian Man, is actually another chamber that's up above the second grand gallery, and that the crown chakra chamber would actually be in the crown of the Vitruvian Man, in his head. So
wow.
Yeah, that's right. In other words, the crown chakra that based on the horizontal lines that Da Vinci put in there, there's like a horizontal line. I think you can see one through his nose. Do you see the one through the bottom of his nose?
I do.
And I think there's one through the eyes too. That would be the crown chakra. Or maybe it's up at his hair. It's up at his hair level. You see the hair, the top of the hair, the bottom of the hair, and the top of the forehead?
There is one there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the crown chakra. So that would actually be in his head. So, but again, these are just metaphors, because they're symbols.
Yeah.
They're symbols. So what you're saying is totally apropos. And then the other black dot just below Misa is the other shoulder of Orion, which is Bellatrix, which I think Bellatrix, if I'm not mistaken, means the swiftly returning. So again, the idea that we're finding this now, maybe there's, the returning of Christ, or it's a prophecy that's saying it'll swiftly happen. But it's in the area that's a vulnerability. It's in the underarm, which is where your body odor is, and where Robert Grant told me that was a place like the Achilles heel where you could be struck. Like if Taurus's bull horn would have struck in the underarm, that's like a spot of weakness, showing that Orion, as a warrior, he has weaknesses too. But yet there's a shoulder star there. So, anyways, let's go on here. Okay, so some of the depictions of Orion show a bow and arrow, and sometimes when you actually just look at the stars, it actually looks like a bow just by itself. And so, look where it would go. I mean, if he pulled a bow and arrow, his you can see his extended right arm would be
Right.
holding the bow, and so his left arm would be pulling that arrow straight back. Look where it's going. It's going straight at Aldebaran, the head star of Taurus, going for the kill. Okay.
Gosh.
And if you put the other way, like that would be him pulling it, and that would be the chamber right above the throat chakra. So anyways, that's interesting that, if you don't take it to be a shield, if you take it to be, a bow and arrow, you're still talking about, striking the enemy. It's still a picture of judgment, of the righteous power overcoming the evil power.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's the shield. You can see how those stars look like a shield. They also look like a bow from a bow and arrow. All right, now here is the throne. That this is just one I picked off the internet. I don't know what the throne looks like inside the throat chakra chamber. I just know my friend, Robert Grant, had a vision, a download that it's there. And so, sometimes prophets get visions, and so Robert Grant has had a profound insight into a lot of things related to sacred geometry, and so it's interesting that he says this is there. Okay. So, but it's actually facing that way. He said it's if you look up there where the black dot is that's circled with the green arrow, the arrow there, it would be just a little bit below that the chair would be in there. And it's actually facing the way that the second throne I put up is facing. It's facing toward the middle, toward like the Adam's apple of the Vitruvian Man. Okay, so there's a close up of that second grand gallery. And you can see the throat chakra chamber, right there. And so this, throne would actually go in there somewhere and facing in that direction. So again, that, so anyone could question, well, somebody saw something in vision, big deal. And, I'm just telling you what Robert Grant told me, but it would be, and when he said to me, when he first told me about it, he said, well, it's just a granite throne, like nothing special. Because think of King Tut's throne, famous in Egypt. It's all the colorful pictures that are around the artwork and stuff. Picture a throne of the king of, any country, how, there's emeralds and it's beautiful. This is just a granite throne. But what I told Robert when he told me that, it's remarkable if it's there because there are no thrones in pyramids. Pyramids are associated more with the death of the pharaoh, trying to make it to the next life. So, moving on to the next life kind of thing, mummification, that kind of thing. And there's no, a throne goes along with a king that's ruling now. He's not, flying off to heaven. He's making decisions in his kingdom now. He's reigning now. That's what's so unusual about having a throne in a pyramid. And so I just think it's interesting that it's there in that chamber and that it's connected to the club. And so again, it's saying to me that the Alpha and Omega, the power behind this, the spiritual center, that if there is a judgment where there's human suffering, because ultimately that's what a judgment means, I mean, it can be just you learn a lesson because, you have heartbreak, you do something wrong, you realize you made a mistake in life, it causes you heartbreak. That can be a judgment, a form of judgment too, but it's still a hurt involved. There's still something. So anyways, that's what I see there. And one other thing now that I want to just add to this is besides the shield and besides the bow and arrow, the most often pictured fleshing out of the stars of Orion is a defeated lion. Most of the depictions of Orion show not a bow and arrow, not a shield, but a defeated lion. And so, I just think that's incredible because in one hand, he's got a club raised. He's fighting the invading power, the woke governments of the earth gone bad. And yet here's the assurance in the other hand, and I'm going to kill you, bull, just like I did the lion. Because it's a defeated enemy he's holding up as a trophy, saying, I have confidence as a fighter because I've defeated the enemy. And also it's the idea of a sacrifice. You know, sometimes Christ is called the Lion of the tribe of Judah, but then he also sacrificed his life in the traditional Christian story. And so there's some element of that here, you know, of some of that imagery here.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's interesting, if you read my book, Enoch, the Egyptian New Orion Connection Hypothesis is what Enoch stands for. When I chased the stars down on Egypt's soil that were the enemy, in other words, these stars are associated with the defeated enemy. So what on Egyptian soil is the enemy? And I'm not going to say it on the air with you, because it's dangerous and it's controversial, but that's one of the things that in my research led me to go, holy cow, look what I found here. Look at the Alpha and Omegas telling me. In other words, there's not pyramids here. What's here? What is the enemy? So read my book. Everyone,
read his book, Enoch, by Larry Pahl. Read it.
So let's why don't you show me now what you showed? Can you show me what you held up there?
I can.
Because now I stopped sharing the screen so we can see. Okay.
Straight away, I know there's a lot of light everywhere. Number 7, crown chakra, violet flower of life.
And you know what's interesting looking at that picture is, as a matter of fact, let me go back to sharing the screen, because I think I had it in the next picture. Let me just show this real quick. So
the light keys, I think, to opening up different parts of you for you to like kind of open up this frequency within you when you look at it.
Okay, so this right here. Yeah, so let me present this. Okay, so can you see that now? Do you see the book there?
The book.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So How the World is Made, the Story of Creation According to Sacred Geometry. So it's a book by John Michel, a famous metrologist. And so in here, he goes, this is the first figure in geometry. So it's a picture very similar to what you just showed me. It's basically a circle. But in the middle of the circle is the center. And so it says, it's the symbol of number 1 and the unique universe. So here's this circle with a dot in the middle, which is the center. He calls it symbol of the unique universe. The dot is dimensionless and conceptually non-existent, but it is the first and most essential element in the construction. You can't make that circle without a center, but the center is dimensionless and theoretically non-existent. That which is the most important thing, the first element of sacred geometry, is nothing.
Nothing.
And yet it's everything. And this is the holy shaft that I discovered. The holy shaft is this homely, garbage-filled pit.
Yeah.
And yet from it, this beautiful circle that touches all the major monuments, that signals knowledge of planet Earth. And it's a homely, humble shaft. And I've also written a paper that's on academia, which I show most of the major monuments at Giza, the satellite pyramids of Menkaure, the trial passages, the causeway, name a monument that's at Giza, the Hemayunu tomb, the tomb of the builder of the Great Pyramid. Many of them are exactly even 100-foot distances from the holy shaft. It's 2,500 feet to the Menkaure satellite. It's 1,800 feet to the beginning of the Grand. It's not 18.76. It's not 972.4. They're exactly 100 feet increments. So this holy shaft, this humble holy shaft, which is the middle of the holy circle that I discovered, is connected to many of the monuments in Giza by exact 100-foot increments. not 1752, but 1700, not 1821, but 1800. Unbelievable.
Exactly.
So I just think that holy shaft I discovered is a picture of what John Michel says is the first figure in geometry. It symbolizes one in the unique universe. So
Yeah.
to that, I say, wow.
Wow.
Wow. So that I consider
Really?
that one of my most major discoveries that I started with the Holy Circle and the Holy Shaft. And then my most recent one is just taking what Will conjectured, that it looked to him and it looked to Robert Grant, because I think they actually saw it. We were on the Gaia set. If you don't know, Robert Grant, it did a one season of programs with Gaia that was tremendous.
Yep.
And he just finished filming his
Amazing.
second series of programs. So season 2 is coming out in Gaia while they were on the set, because the Gaia set is right near Will Wyer's house. He just happens to live there. And so he and Robert were together on the set. And so it was somehow when the Vitruvian Man there that Will suggested that, and Robert said, I think you're right. And so I just simply followed through that insight. And so it's a discovery that Will made, but then I just followed the discovery further because I think it was in Da Vinci's mind. And I think what we just showed is so what it does is, it's no big glory to Will Wyer. It's no big glory to me. It's no big glory to Da Vinci. What it is it's the story that all of those are pointing to. It's the story of
Yeah.
Orion fighting the enemy and suggesting we're living in that time because
Right.
we're seeing these things now. That's an implication that we're showing it to you. This is going to happen. And Robert has found in the King's Chamber almost all the constellations. He's seen it's such a hard, it's
Yes.
such difficult lighting up there, but he's seen, and more people are seeing it now. And so all the
Mhm.
constellations are there, which the implication is we can find where we are then in the precession of the equinoxes. And if we can find where we are, then we can figure out what prophecies and what timeline. And it could be some timelines that we spoke about at the beginning of the program could really be opening
Yep.
up in all this. It's like not only are we showing Orion about to fight, it's like the citizens seeking freedom against the governments trying to take it away, and this battle
Yes.
going to take place. Maybe there'll be a time
Yeah.
frame on that, because again, that picture's always been there. Orion's always been up in the sky, fascinating ancient civilizations. But the implication is
Yeah.
someday that's going to be fulfilled. And so,
Absolutely. And it shows that it's like it gives us confidence in knowing that one day it will be fulfilled because it's depicted in that, with
yeah,
him holding up the lion. And I really find it interesting with around the throat chakra linking up to the crown chakra and how that kind of needs to be balanced as well, and how they're discovering those chambers at the moment, and how the kind of throat chakra is about the self-expression and about how that's been kind of, broken and shut down in this society as well with free speech and just like how it is as an individual as well as like globally affecting the world, and how we
yes,
need to, with everything that you're saying, it makes me feel like we need, with the burdens on the shoulder, we need to overcome the burdens through aligning our chakras in general, but focusing mainly at the moment on maybe the crown and the throat and what's happening there. Maybe that there's something to be discovered there which can help us release those burdens. I don't know, but
yes.
all of
I
that
think,
is just
I think because
yeah,
it's always been true that you should develop your chakras, whether you believe in them or not. So people that don't believe in it, you still
absolutely.
need to develop yourself. Plato said the unexamined life is not worth living, or Socrates said that. So we all know we
Yes.
need to always do that in all times. But it seems like you're saying that at this time, this isn't a special focus. And the fact that those two beings falling off the pyramid that were being knocked down by the judgment were Egyptian says to me that I disagree with a large part of the esoteric community that says humanity is coming to this now. No, those are humans that are falling off the pyramid. Not all humanity does. It's an invitation for everyone to develop. It's an
Yeah.
invitation but not everyone does. For whatever reason, evil is mysterious. For some reason, some people don't advance, develop, discover.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
somehow evil, jealousy, pride,
Yes.
anger, murder, you know,
Yeah.
restrictions. Somehow
Yeah.
that gets a hold of some people. And so
Yeah.
the whole
Completely.
race, because the whole Orion Taurus thing pictures a clashing of humanity. So the question is, be on
Yeah.
the right side of history in the best sense, and it,
Absolutely.
I have found that the tree of life from the Kabbalah fits over
Hmm.
the Giza Plateau, just like the Vitruvian Man does. I've done programs about that. And what's interesting is that the holy shaft, the way that the tree of life needs to be laid out for Giza, I discovered it one time. It puts beauty, which is the middle. What's the word? I forgot the name of the Sephiroth, but beauty is the middle. It starts with from the crown, and then it goes the 9 or 10 different positions on the tree of life. But beauty
Yeah.
in the center is exactly where the holy shaft is. So when you
Oh,
when you lay
wow.
the tree of life out over
All
Giza, the
right.
way I discovered, and I didn't. I remember it was one of my followers on Instagram because I said something. They said, "Oh, you should turn it." And I said, "Oh yeah, you're right." And when I did, and it made sense based on the sacred geometry. I'd have to show you that, but the beauty was right over the holy shaft, and so I studied the tree of life quite a bit when I was a young man, and there's a certain way that you're supposed to follow the Sephiroth. I mean, you could probably do it a lot of ways, but the way that I was taught, you start at the top, and then you go to from wisdom, you go to wisdom, and then once you gain wisdom, you sort of realize, oh, that's why he does that, because
Yeah.
his mother was real mean to him when he was young. So then you get understanding, and then when you get
Hmm.
understanding, there's a danger you could become too merciful. Oh, woe is him, and then you don't provide good boundaries for somebody. So then it goes to, uh, uh, you know, borders or boundaries, and then it goes to so that there. And so when you do that, it's after you've developed understanding, but also mercy, but also realizing you need to hold lines. These are all developed virtues. It's then that it crosses through beauty. So beauty, I say, based on the tree of life and based on the way I learned it, you can't become beautiful by trying to be beautiful.
No.
By thinking cosmetics or yourself,
Oh,
anything you're
that's it.
doing to try and become beautiful will never lead to beauty. Beauty comes as a result of developing strength, decision making, wisdom, kindness,
Mhm.
developing the virtues
Mhm.
that are given in the tree of life, and then it goes through beauty. So beauty is a byproduct of the proper development of these virtues. And so it's interesting that holy shaft, again, is at this
Yeah.
point of beauty.
Keeps coming up.
Because if you look at the holy shaft, there's nothing beautiful about it. I've got pictures of me,
Well,
there's garbage in the bottom because there's garbage that blows all around Giza. And people, every time I show things and people always say, oh, there's so much garbage. I look past it. I'm trying to
and
find the
that's the
secret.
thing. You've literally just explained, like, if the shaft is full of garbage, that is literally what we kind of are. We've been conditioned so heavily, and we're so like full of garbage in our mind and in our bodies that we can't see the beauty anymore. We
That's
can't see the
absolutely
beauty
true.
in our
Because
heart.
just like we just saw with John Michel saying that center of the circle, which is the most important part, it's nothing. It's almost
Yeah,
like the more divine like you become, the more you become nothing. I mean,
absolutely.
you know so much that you know what you don't know, and you realize what you don't know is so much that you know nothing. It's almost like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that quite.
you're right. Yeah,
Um,
and yeah,
yeah,
beauty is part of beauty. Then is obviously humility. I mean, it's one of the
absolutely.
key ingredients, and so that says to me that the humble center from which this universe is run, because I believe that the beauty of the universe is because of a single creator. That if there's so much beauty in the rotation of the planets, there's so much beauty in the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, and the way DNA works and everything. There's so much beauty but it says to me that the center of that beauty is ultimately humble. So love and power often don't go together. We taught that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And yet it seems like the one that has absolute power also has absolute humility. And so you asked me, what in the beginning things I learned at Giza. That's one thing I think Giza taught me right there with the holy shaft.
This is the things.
The
Yeah,
power
this
the
is it.
power at the center of the universe is benign. I've got a hat on that
Yeah.
says kind. Be kind.
Oh, is that what it says?
Yeah, I
Can't
think
see
so.
it right.
Yeah. Well, there's a picture of a bee. There's a picture of a bee,
Oh,
and then it says kind. So the
be
idea is be kind.
kind. It's
And I wore that
lovely.
because of this, because I thought we might talk about this. So that's,
That's lovely.
yeah,
Absolutely. So we need to balance all the energy centers, all the chakras,
yeah,
and then find our own inner beauty by letting go of all the garbage and coming
yeah,
back to the wisdom of
yeah,
our own hearts.
yeah. Yeah.
So
And
that's such a
I probably
beautiful
should have
message.
put together a little visual about what I talked about, because by seeing it, I'd be reminded, first of all, the names. There's Bina and the different names of the Sephiroth, and I'd be reminded about the stuff I studied decades ago when I first was cutting
Yeah.
my teeth and learning this stuff. But I did study a lot about the Tree of Life, and I read, as a matter of fact, I bought books about the Kabbalah. And I've read books, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of junk in the Kabbalah. There's a whole lot of junk in the Kabbalah. You don't want to get lost in
Mhm.
it. But I bought these books to try and extract the parts that were meaningful, because I knew the Tree of Life was embedded in the Kabbalah. And I know the Tree of Life is real. It's the Ein Sof.
Yes.
It's ultimately like a starter kit to God. I mean, it's a
Yeah. Sure.
there's a foundation, there's a crown, foundation, crown. It's almost like the same type of things that are in the chakras are in the Tree of Life. And I
Yeah.
learned, as a young man, I mean, I think it's a good thing I learned that there's a development process of these virtues. And again, you don't get the
Absolutely.
beauty by trying to be beautiful. It just never works.
No.
It comes through developing your reasoning
Those
powers,
roots.
developing, learning to be wise, viewing the world, understanding things the way they're happening, learning to set borders for yourself, learning, your place,
Yeah.
and being content with it. Not envying somebody else's station, or, just developing these virtues. And so,
Oh, it's so beautiful. Thank you so much.
yeah,
Thank you for sharing everything. It's been so nice to speak to you.
you too,
So, so
Rachel. I'm
nice.
glad we become friends, and I hope you can come to Egypt
Oh
with me
my,
sometime.
and oh, would you want to tell everyone about the Egypt trip then?
Sure, yeah.
The three tours that you have.
It's kind of late, but you can still get in. I mean,
Yeah.
if you can push things aside at the last minute, I've got a what I call the March adventure, March 3rd through the 7th, and it's one of the most inexpensive things I do. It's not a tour;
Yeah.
it's an Indiana Jones type. We're going to go to some secret places, and maybe off limit places, and do some, and plus you'll get to see the major things in Saqqara and Dashur and of course Giza, but you'll also be doing mysterious things with me. You can look on the website. So Great Pyramid, just think of one word, Great Pyramid at
Great Pyramid.
.org, because
I
org
will
is
put
the
everything
okay, yeah. So
below so they
it's the
can find it
extension
all
for,
below.
and so that extension .org is used especially for not-for-profits, which I am. So greatpyramid.org, and you'll see about the March adventure, March 3rd through the 7th. Then I'm doing a special adventure, March 7th through the 17th, which is another Indiana Jones type adventure. It's chasing down 7 mysterious mid-sized pyramids. They're step pyramids that almost nothing's been written about, and some of them are in parts of Egypt that nobody ever goes. So you'll be going to a totally non-touristy place. They're all along the Nile. So the uppermost one is in the Fayum Oasis. The southernmost one is down in Elephantine Island, and then they're spread out along the Nile. We're going to go to all 7 of them. And in the process, we'll also see some of the major things of Egypt. We'll see things in Luxor, the Luxor Temple, the Karnak Temple. We'll see things down in Aswan, but we'll also focus on these 7 mysterious pyramids. And I also have, during that same time period, the 7th through the 17th, a full 5-star tour where you do a Nile cruise, and so I'm sort of running 2 tours at the same time, and I'm going to interface between the 2 tours. But so yeah, look at greatpyramid.org. Check it out. There's still time to put a deposit down and come. So we got a little bit of room.
Oh, wonderful. So it's greatpyramid.org, and
That's
I'll
right.
put everything in the description below.
Great.
Everywhere, anywhere else that they can find you.
Yeah, well, I'm at Sage Silent on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where
go.
I do. I get a lot of my tourists come from Instagram because I have a pretty big following on Instagram, and that's where you and I met. And that's where people learn the things I discover. They learn who I am, and then they want to go to Egypt with me. And so I'd say most of my tourists come from my Instagram account. I've got a YouTube account, but you could find that on either the Instagram page or the web page. Because my YouTube channel is smaller, but I do put a lot of my discoveries on YouTube. So even though it's a smaller channel, you can still see a lot of good stuff there. And if you want to find the YouTube channel, it's the handle at The Great Pyramid. So if you forget about anything else, just put into the search engine a YouTube search engine at The Great Pyramid, one word, The Great Pyramid. So I was glad to get that handle. It's a simple handle at
good.
The Great Pyramid, and you'll get right to my channel. It'll take you right there.
Straight there. Wonderful. Okay then. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you for having me, Rachel. And again, I'm hoping you pop up in that March tour.
I know. I'll do my best. Thank you, Larry. Thank you so much. Okay. Hopefully we can have you on again soon. But thank you, and all my love to you. And I'll speak to you very soon.
And ditto. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast with Larry Pahl. I hope you enjoyed it. You'll find all of his information in the description box below. I would be honoured and grateful if you could like and subscribe to this new channel. Truly happy for you to be here from the bottom of my heart. So anything that you would like to say, any comments, please let me know, and I will see you soon. Sending you love.